Oh, I know what to say about. I have one other thing to say about Gordon and the going to the Whitney Museum retrospective, which really was really kind of interesting because I saw one of the people which I hadn't seen in 20 years, and so from they're kind of, you know, they basically say to me, "So what are you doing now?" Because ultimately, for you know, they don't know anything about digital art. They don't know anything about new media. As far as they're concerned, you know, I stopped. They haven't seen me in 25 years. They don't know I exist. It's very interesting. So there is a disjunction, you know. And I was just writing actually something about the 1980s, which I'm going to put on post.thing.net, which is a website, one of the first new media websites, which I'm involved in. It was originally ThingNet. Now it's kind of a blog site, post.thing.net. It's kind of a community, but it's a virtual community of digital arts, new media. I think it's been going on since, I think it started with Wolfgang Staehler, and I think he started in 1990, if I'm not mistaken, 91, someplace in there. I did my first internet piece in 93 or 92, someplace in there, which is kind of interesting because it was just before everybody was really on the internet. I mean, the original thing was a BBS, and so you had to have a modem, which was like I think it was a 14.4 baud modem hooked to a phone line, so you could essentially log on to this. Wolfgang set up a computer with some BBS software, and it was all text, or you could upload photographs. And what I did was I'd done a piece called BKPC, or Barbie and Ken Politically Correct, which featured a black Barbie doll and a black Ken doll and a white Barbie doll. And it was a series of photo vignettes. I photographed them in these kind of like cartoony story things. It was really stupid. The story is essentially, and it's still on the web now, you can see it if you want. But basically the story is that Barbie, who's this kind of like blonde white girl, goes to college and meets Ken, who's this black kind of hip hop guy in English literature class, and then they demonstrate against racism on campus. And while they're demonstrating, first she asks him to be in a band with her, a rock band or something like that. And then they're demonstrating against racism on campus. Then they get beat up by American neo-Nazis, who are these G.I. Joe dolls. And then, or she gets beat up by the American neo-Nazis. And then Ken comes and saves the day, and then they fall in love and have sex. And that's the end of the story. Okay. It's a really stupid thing. But anyway, this is a series of photographs. And what I did was I put them on, I think it was 10 or 12 photographs. And what I did was upload one a week for 12 weeks. And on the thing, I uploaded them, and then people could download them if they were part of the BBS. They could download them and have them as a collectible, whatever they wanted to do. And I wrote something on each one, you know, like a little kind of story about what's happening, blurb, blah, blah, blah. What happened, which was interesting to me, was that Thomas Zollner, and I can't remember what the other dealer is, but there were these people who had a gallery in Soho, which was the Art Center. Now it's West Chelsea. And the name of the gallery was TZ Art. And they were showing like really kind of very hip kind of conceptual work and so that. And I had sent them my slides, and I was friendly with them. And you know, of course, there was no way I was going to get into this gallery. There was like, I wasn't young enough, I wasn't hip enough, and you know, whatever. I mean, there's no way, right? But what I thought was really interesting was that what I went and I was talking to them, and Zollner was called away to do something on a telephone. And I looked down on his computer, and there on his screen, as a screensaver, was my piece, Barbie and Ken Politically Correct, and it was rotating. I mean, cycling through the photographs, which I thought, okay, perfect. In other words, my work was being shown in a very hip Soho gallery. It's just that it hadn't gotten there in the route where you give them slides, you talk to them, you schmooze them up, and it was actually in the gallery, which I thought, this is terrific. This made perfect sense to me. It made sense at a lot of different levels, but ultimately this was just before the internet. And then when the internet started, I then presented that piece as a client pull animation, which is a very simple kind of browser thing. The browser refreshes and it goes to the next image. A very simple kind of animation thing. Then I did a bunch of other pieces which kind of extend my conceptual art practice and my performance work, because before that time I was doing video performance. I was also doing conceptual work and installation in the 1970s, a lot of which was totally ephemeral, had been lost, or I had remade it in the 1990, I did a lot of remaking of some work. None of which is ever sold, actually. I kind of, but anyway. In terms of like the internet and digital new media work, I was involved in 3 kind of websites. One was ArtNet Web, which was me and Robin Murphy and Remo Campopiano and Adrian Wartzel, which had a similar thing to the thing. It was kind of proprietary software, BBS style, with kind of the potential for artists to have studios and that kind of thing, and then other people could actually access it and visit, which it was a little bit more sophisticated than Wolfgang's in terms of the software, because you could put images and video and a bunch of other stuff, and hypertext linking and this and that and the other thing. The thing was very much a text-driven kind of little text forums, and then the web came along. The thing set up a website. ArtNet Web set up a website, and also then a little bit later, Rhizome started, and they started as a kind of email discussion list, similar to the BBS kind of notion, and now they're kind of a very kind of a major site. So I was involved in all 3 of those. There was another one which was out of NYU, an interactive telecommunication program. It was called Echo, or East Coast Hangout, which is kind of had a lot of text forums, similar to ArtNet, similar to the thing, but it was very kind of academic, discussing kind of various topics, which really kind of didn't go anyplace, or it got sold to. When the internet really hit, they got sold to some sort of like Time Warner or something like that, thinking they were going to make some sort of money, and it kind of just went down. ArtNet Web basically was never able to get beyond a certain level in terms of money, but what we did do in ArtNet Web, which was really actually kind of interesting, and you can look at this as a timeline in terms of, I think Martin Wattenberg has a timeline for internet art, digital art, and it's in the Whitney Museum. It's called Idealine, I believe, but ArtNet Web was asked to curate an internet, or the first web internet art show for MIT, for the MIT Vera List Center for the Visual Arts, which is a museum at MIT. So we did that. Basically what we did was we had 4 screens, like rear projection screens, and 4 data projectors in the centrifuge space with 4 computers right underneath it. We formed this kind of like virtual cube environment space. And all of we scheduled and invited people to do performances, live performances in some way, or present work by streaming them or giving us URLs or whatever. So there was a constant kind of program occurring, like a big group show, but it was all over the internet, either through reflector sites or whatever. And you can see on the timeline that it was called Port, P-O-R-T, Port-MIT, and it was the first internet web art show exhibit. That's it, starts from there. And we invited a lot of people to do different things. Some people did chat, you know, like Ricardo Dominguez did a piece about Zapatistas, where he did this kind of theater piece. I had also, at that same time, I was involved with an outfit called Pseudo Online Radio. And essentially what they did was they took, they were using streaming real media, real software, first real audio and then real video, to stream audio and then by extension audio video. And they had this, it was started by Josh Harris, and his idea was to set up a kind of like an alternative like media empire, which was really kind of interesting. He invited the whole kind of like downtown, not art scene, but the whole kind of theater, dance, performance, comedy, poets, everything. So Josh had invited all of these, he had gotten something, I can't remember what, he was in one of these kind of like internet outfits doing a lot of marketing, and I think he even had like the first kind of market research company, which I can't remember what it was, to show, help businesses, you know, implement onto the internet. And he got tons of, you know, millions of dollars to do this and whatever the hell it was. But he was starting this alternative TV station. Basically, he was very smart. And he also got Robert Galinsky involved, you know, to kind of set this whole program up. And essentially, they were doing something like 1 hour and half-hour shows, which were television and TV shows, right, where they had a studio. And they asked me to do an art show. And I said, okay, I'll do an art show about art, or digital art actually, and I called it Art Dirt. And I invited Robin Murphy, who's my colleague in ArtNet Web, and Adrian Wartzel to come, and we'd have a roundtable kind of discussion, and once a week. And I think, I can't remember, it was a half an hour or an hour, I can't remember, I think, whatever, anyway. And it actually had like TV commercials in between, which is really very funny. And we basically, what we did was we invited new media artists, digital artists, to come and talk to us about what they were doing. And that now is at the Walker Art Center. It's in the Digital Studies Archive, so it's kind of a historical document and it still exists. Pseudo somehow closed or was sold, and now it's kind of reborn as some sort of like internet TV station. I don't know whether they're doing very well or not, or what they're doing, but it was actually a time. Josh was actually prescient, or way before his time in terms of what was going on. In any case, what I was doing was, for Port MIT, what I did was I did Art Dirt, but I did Art Dirt Import. So I would invite a bunch of artists to come and do performances at Pseudo, which were then streamed or presented over the internet with real media and also with telephones, because we would call up MIT and have people talk to people at MIT on the telephone. We would have, if there were 4 screens, we would sometimes be running, like one would be a streamed video of Art Dirt, where there'd be a round table with like, you know, TV cameras and this and that. One would be like a See You, See Me, so we'd have a separate video stream occurring, a See You, See Me, with other people, like people in Europe or something like that. So you could have like both talk show and the See You, See Me on a separate screen, because it'd be a separate stream. And we would also have a chat window, so it'd be another screen and have a chat window. And I can't remember what else we were doing with that, but that would be something like that. You know, maybe 2 See You, See Me's, one on each screen. So they actually would have all this kind of mix of things occurring, so it was kind of like very primitive interactive TV. Now, for the opening of that show, just as an aside, ArtNet Web had at one point storefront on Broome Street, and Peter Sinclair, who's this British sound artist, was over in New York City visiting, and he stopped into the storefront and showed me his work and this and that, and I invited him to be on Art Dirt, you know, as a kind of a, you know, just come and talk and this and that. And I think I had like some guy from the guy who was the new media curator for the Guggenheim Museum was there. I can't remember what his name was. You know, but anyway, Peter liked that a lot, and you know, we got to talking, and I said, well, why don't you invite me over to Aix-en-Provence, because that's where he's teaching at the École d'Art d'Aix-en-Provence.